Land. It just exists, no one made it. But in today's world, owning land is one of the easiest ways to become wealthy, without ever lifting a finger. Georgism says that's unjust. Rentier Capitalism says that's just good investment. One system wants to share the value of land, the other wants to privatize it entirely. Let's unpack both, compare them honestly, and look at what happens when these ideas meet the real world. Origins and core ideas. Georgism was introduced by Henry George in the late 1800s. He was struck by a paradox. Why did poverty seem to increase the more a society developed? His answer: landowners were capturing the value of progress. As cities grew, roads were built, and demand increased. Land values rose, not because of the landowner's effort, but because of the community around them. George argued that this unearned increase in land value should be taxed and shared, while personal effort and labor should remain untaxed. This gave rise to the idea of a single tax, the land value tax, as the fairest and most economically efficient way to fund society. It wouldn't punish productivity or distort the market. It would simply reclaim the value created by the community and return it to the public through infrastructure, services, and reduced taxation elsewhere. Rentier capitalism, by contrast, didn't begin with a thinker but with a trend. As industrial capitalism matured, wealth began shifting from factories and businesses to land, real estate, and financial instruments. In a rentier economy, owning assets becomes more profitable than creating goods or services. The rentier doesn't have to build anything. They just need to buy land, wait, and charge those who want to use it. While Georgism challenges the legitimacy of unearned income from land, rentier capitalism institutionalizes it. How they function. In a Georgist model, governments tax land based on its unimproved value. So if you own a plot in the middle of London or San Francisco, you're taxed based on what that land is worth, not what you build on it. This incentivizes productive use of land, reduces speculation, and discourages the kind of hoarding that leaves entire city blocks empty while people sleep in the streets. A functioning Georgist system could replace income taxes, sales taxes, and corporate taxes, shifting the burden of taxation onto passive wealth and away from active effort. It rewards work, not ownership. Rentier capitalism functions differently. Landowners benefit from rising values driven by public investment, better transport links, better schools, growing populations, but they keep the gains privately. In some cases, they even oppose public improvements if they threaten their margins. Meanwhile, taxes fall more heavily on workers and consumers, creating a system where effort is taxed and idleness is rewarded. Look at cities like London, New York, or Hong Kong. Rentier interests drive up land and housing costs, pushing workers into smaller spaces, longer commutes, and deeper debt, all while landowners see their net worth climb simply by existing. If you're finding this breakdown useful, do us a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who still thinks landlords earned their passive income. And if you're thinking about making content like this yourself, check out the Flicky link in the description. It's the same AI video tool used to build this channel. Fast, clean, and powerful. You'll be up and running in minutes, and yes, it helps the channel too. Now back to the rent wars. Real-world examples. Some modern cities have experimented with land value taxes. Hong Kong, for example, collects significant revenue through land leases because all land is technically owned by the government. This has helped it maintain relatively low income taxes. Estonia has a land value tax component in its property system. Pennsylvania once allowed cities like Harrisburg to tax land at higher rates than buildings, which helped spur redevelopment. But these are the exceptions, not the rule. Most of the world's wealthiest cities are deep into rentier logic. In the UK, housing benefit payments go straight into the pockets of private landlords, many of whom inherited their land. In the US, real estate investors benefit from tax write-offs, capital gains discounts, and 1031 exchanges that allow them to roll over profits tax-free. Meanwhile, the average renter pays a third or more of their income for shelter. Even in supposedly capitalist economies, the returns often come from holding land, not creating value. Good and bad. Georgism's strengths are clear. It encourages efficient land use, deters speculation, and shifts tax burdens away from work and toward privilege. Economists across the spectrum, from Milton Friedman to Joseph Stiglitz, have acknowledged that a land value tax is one of the least distortionary taxes available. But there are downsides. Measuring land value separate from improvements can be complex. Politically, it's a hard sell. Landowners are often the most powerful stakeholders in any society. They sit on zoning boards, they fund campaigns, they shape public discourse. Trying to tax their land is like trying to take candy from a cartel. Rentier capitalism rewards those who own early and hold long. It creates incentives to invest in property, build wealth across generations and benefit from rising asset values. But it also locks out newcomers, slows economic mobility, and concentrates wealth and power in fewer hands. It treats housing as a commodity rather than a right. And once entrenched, rentier dynamics can be almost impossible to reverse. Cynical thoughts. In theory, Georgism is elegant. In practice, it threatens the very foundations of who controls society. Landowners don't like being taxed. Developers don't want to pay for the value the community gives them. Politicians don't bite the hand that bankrolls their re-election. So even when the policy makes sense, it rarely gets adopted. Rentier capitalism doesn't need a theory because it has inertia. Once land becomes the dominant asset class, everything bends around it. Tax policy, urban planning, even banking. Mortgages dominate credit markets, property prices dominate election cycles. Owning land becomes synonymous with success, and challenging that becomes political suicide. People talk about free markets, but in reality, we've built a system where the most valuable thing, land, has been taken out of the market altogether and turned into a toll booth. Famous quotes. Henry George. The ownership of land is the great fundamental fact which ultimately determines the social, the political, and consequently the intellectual and moral condition of a people. Brett Christophers. We do not live in capitalism, but in rentism. And perhaps the most cynical modern summary, buy land. They're not making it anymore. That one's often attributed to Mark Twain, though the sentiment is far older and far more entrenched. Book recommendations. For Georgism, Progress and Poverty by Henry George. It's dense but still the definitive case for taxing land and liberating labor. For Rentier Capitalism by Brett Christophers. A modern, hard-hitting look at how economic power has shifted from production to passive ownership. Both books will help you understand why you're working harder but feeling poorer, and why your landlord might be your biggest competitor. Conclusion. Georgism is a challenge to power. It says no one should get rich just by owning a piece of the earth. Rentier capitalism is a defense of power. It says owning land is the highest form of success. One system believes in taxing privilege, the other believes in preserving it. One says value should go to those who create it. The other says value belongs to whoever got there first. Neither system is just an idea. They shape how we live, how we work, and who gets to win without effort. And the longer we avoid the land question, the more skewed that game becomes. Subscribe to Housemore Compares. Ideas made clear, power made visible.